the second that Joe Biden decided that he was going to run for re-election, it was over. Yeah. Okay. And that's what people don't really want to talk about is that when you have a person like Joe Biden who clearly wasn't up to it, and we have to start being honest about that. I see a lot of people are mad at Jake Tapper, but he's actually telling the truth. Okay. He didn't at the beginning, but he's actually telling the truth now. And you had Joe Biden come out there and try to act like he was okay and that everything was going to be all right. And you guys can vote for me again. And the country at that point, I feel like, was already turning. And for them to push him back out there again and then try to make a last second ditch effort to put somebody like a Kamala, and we'll talk more about this later, out there, you know, and for her to lose big time. You know, I mean, like it was a bad thing to see. So, I mean, really, I don't want to see any of these senators, these Democratic senators, these establishment people out here showboating because it's all for show.
But do you want to talk about the way that they're acting? Biden had to come back, though?
The way they're acting. Oh my God, Trump is doing this.
No, but when you want to talk about the real reason Biden had to come back, and we had a discussion about this, Biden specifically said when Obama term was up, I'm retiring. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm old, and I did this joint for 60 years. Yeah. But no matter how people want to dance around how race plays a part, they knew it would take another white man to beat that white man. And they had to get an established white man to do that. They couldn't pop out with no new Democratic dude. Right. Even they had quality dudes. They couldn't do Buttigieg. They couldn't do Meacham. They couldn't do none of these guys from the West Virginia dude that were quality dudes. Because they know Trump had not solidified the entertainment base. So they was like, okay, then we gotta hope people fall back on just the loyalty of who Joe Biden was. This man was trying to retire. This man was done. So putting him out there was our last ditch to stop Trump. Yeah. So now they should have been grooming somebody then. Them whole 4 years is what they should have been doing.
So let me say this, and I'm going to, and I know this may ruffle some feathers.
Go for it.
I'm done. I'm done with the progressive conversation because as someone who has been paying attention to politics, I hear progressives. They sound like Dallas Cowboy fans. It's always going
That's
to
why
be.
I'm a progressive.
It's always going to be your year, you know, and you're holding on to something that's not there. If we start going to your point,
okay,
in the last 40 years. When has there ever been a president of a winning party, an incumbent president, that has not run for re-election? There has never been.
You know what?
In the last it is standard practice.
Yeah. And that's that,
and people who are coming out here saying, "Oh, well, the Democrat." Yeah. No. It is standard practice.
Yep.
Also, here's the thing that a lot of progressives don't get, and I'm just going to say it.
Go for it.
Y'all don't have political capital.
None.
You do not. You have ideas. You have passion. Yep. Some of that needs to be channeled in better directions. But if you look at the makeup of our political system, it rewards seniority.
Yes.
So you want to remove someone that is a standard bearer for your party. They love to say establishment. Once you get elected, you're part of the establishment. We vote for the establishment. We fool ourselves to think that, because I got this idea that I think everybody should have. No, Joe Biden ran again. And here's a theory that I read. I forgot which columnist. I read that so few people thought about. Yes, Joe Biden's mental capacity was questionable, right? But I pushed back on that because look at Donald Trump.
Right,
you know, all these people that want to run about Joe Biden, look at Donald Trump. He had that before.
If you compare them, it's not comparable.
No, it is. You mean to tell me if you put Joe Biden on a national stage with foreign dignitaries?
Saw it, though.
But hold on.
Go ahead.
Give me one example of Donald Trump on the world stage talking with world leaders in a full capacity.
I'm not trying to defend Donald Trump.
No. I said give me the example.
Let me just make a clear point here. we saw Donald Trump versus Biden on a big stage, on a big platform.
You
It
saw
was
Donald
called the
Trump at a
debate.
debate.
It was called the debate.
So here's the thing.
And
He
It's
didn't
a
Biden,
debate, though. He
But hold
didn't
on.
didn't know where
But
he
hold
was.
on. So this is another thing that I push back on progressives.
Okay.
A debate versus a presidency is two different things.
True.
That's like talking about somebody's performance in the All-Star game versus the season. And that's where I'm saying too many people get caught up in this notion that, oh, he didn't do good here.
Yeah.
But if you go pull up Biden's entire presidency and what he was able to do from a legislative
Listen.
standpoint,
Yeah, go ahead.
but I don't ever hear progressives say that, though.
Well, I'm more of a middle progressive. If there's a
Now we're not shifting. Now
moving
we're
the
Oh,
Like,
here
no,
come
no,
the
no.
goalpost
No,
movement.
no.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. Let me say this. The reason why I bring that up is because I'm gonna say when Biden was doing good. And by the way, I actually liked Biden, and I thought that he was great, and I voted for him. And when it was time for him to go up against, when it was Hillary versus Trump, and they were trying to run that, I was like, hey, we need to go after Biden, because I remember Biden. I remember the Biden of 2012. The Biden of 2012 would have been a great president.
And he still had the fumes from Obama on him.
But people,
then that would have helped.
People were telling us to not believe our eyes and our ears. What we saw when he would walk around and different things that he would do, he would go to these events and everyone could see that he wasn't there. And I mean, like, okay, yes, earlier you talked about how every president, runs for re-election, right? But how many presidents actually said, I'm just a one-term president and I'm going to hand the baton off?
Jimmy Carter.
This is what he said he was going to do, and he didn't do it.
So here's the problem with that. But back to what Dr.
It
Veronica
ultimately cost us. So go ahead.
What Dr. Veronica said, and this is what I was saying about what I read.
Okay.
Progressives shoot themselves in the foot, and they're doing it with Mondani now. So we'll get to that.
Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah. That's why
they
I was
shoot
waiting for
themselves
this conversation for
In
later.
the foot
All the way.
because you want everything immediately. There was someone who said Biden knew he was tired. The man's also dealing with cancer. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't see, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to be honest, the media crafts an image of Biden because
Yes.
they showed where
They lied.
yes.
Let's
Yeah.
call it what it is.
Well,
They
but
lied
here's the
to
thing.
us.
It's optics.
The
They
thing
lie.
about it is they can lie, but it's the people who believe it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Okay. Well,
Because-
majority
because-
of people believed it.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But the issue was they said Biden knows politics. The man's been in politics for 50 years,
Yes.
longer
I'm not
than
debating that.
most progressives. But he also knows how things need to get done. People sit on the outside on a social media platform with their opinions. He's in the room with the people who make decisions, and that's what bothers me because someone said Biden knew that he, in his mind, he knew he had to anchor. What one person said, he was mulling running for re-election as standard practice, getting in and stepping down, which would have elevated, right? But people like Jake Tapper, half the MSNBC newscast, and I got to say this too. Let's go ahead. I call hypocrisy on the Biden conversation because Chuck Grassley is still in Congress.
Look.
Okay, let's go. Jim Clyburn is still in Congress.
John Thurman.
Okay,
stayed
sat
till
there
he
for
was-
50
had
years.
Alzheimer's.
But all of a sudden, people want to talk about competency.
McConnell.
Dianne Feinstein.
Here's the
Look.
thing,
He's
though,
spazzed out
guys.
at the
They're
polls.
not the president
no.
But
of
I
the
get that.
United
I
States
get-
of America.
But you understand we're in the world
on a
of
big
optics.
stage.
Listen, we're in the world of optics. So I get you that we
Yeah,
all
go.
knew what was going on. We all see because he was our 97-year-old grandfather. Okay.
Yeah.
But we all are, and me being a media, it's optics. And one thing you don't want to do is appear weak to another country.
Okay.
And so that's what every country, that's when we even limited. Remember when they started taking homosexuality and were coming out with it in the military.
Right.
That
Don't
was
ask,
the,
don't
they
tell.
were trying, they were
It's
trying to
during Clinton
mitigate the
administration,
damage that would do to our image in other countries with the military. It's all about optics. So they couldn't, even with them knowing this man had cancer, even with them knowing this man was older, even with them knowing, because even my young tail, you inundate me with so much, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, what we was talking about?
Right.
Yeah. So they tried to play up something that was a natural thing for a human, but also worse for an older person. So it was the optics they were trying to control, but they knew they wasn't fooling the majority of people, right? And so, but that's what goes against what he was saying. What Adrian was saying is like, we had people who was in there who had to be wheeled out. Mitch McConnell, whole hand turning blue, and they still got this brother in here.
Listen,
but hold on.
But I know he wasn't president.
I'm with y'all. I'm with y'all. By the way, again, if I'm taking the progressive point. We want younger people. Yeah. We want the people who are coming up.
Old people gone.
I want y'all. I want us to bring these people up and give them an opportunity. And when you give them an opportunity, they turn into Mom Donnie. Okay, you have to give them that opportunity. By the way, okay, you can't tell me that Joe Biden was on the same level when it came to mental acuity as Bernie Sanders.